Hello everybody, Dr. Novak again. In my last video I asked a question because I watched other videos. The people who use like fluorite, sea-chem fluorite, or one of those products, fluval products or whatever, or even sand, they complain about their tanks getting cloudy. Some of them complain that the tank stays cloudy for a long time. You've probably seen the videos. I've seen them, you've seen them. And I've set up, when I set up the Goldfish tank, I redid it. I'm going to have more videos on that, so stay tuned. How I did it, what I did. But I'll show you exactly what the tank looks like right now. However, I asked, when I used the fluorite, yeah, the tank did get cloudy. In fact, it was real cloudy, where you couldn't even see your hand in it. And I filled it up so far, and I emptied it, and I refilled it up, but it was still cloudy. That helped a little bit. But anyway, it didn't take long at all. The tank just cleared right up. And then I would say within 24 hours, it became even better yet, you know. And here's pictures of it, finished, the finished product of what I did. And there's something that I brought up. I was talking to one of my viewers, and something I did bring up. I said, well, I think the tank did look better using the sands and stone and stuff that I mixed in with the sand. I said, it looked better. I have to admit, I said, I have to admit it did look very good. But there were some problems I found with the sand. And if you're a goldfish lover, using sand, I would have to say don't use sand at all. That I found sand in the fish's poop. I mean, really, it's just like, what? I don't think the goldfish are capable of siphoning out that sand enough where they're swallowing it, quite a lot of it. And when you see a goldfish and you see a lot of sand in their poop constantly, you realize, oh, this could be a problem. This could be a problem that would cause swim bladder problems, could even cause the dropsy problems. It could cause lots of problems. But I did notice that. It's because, you know, goldfish are constantly going after the gravel, taking it in, trying to find food, and spit out the gravel and keep the food. Well, apparently with sand, the goldfish aren't capable of doing that. They can't siphon it out good enough, so they're swallowing a lot of the sand, I found out. I would not highly recommend to use sand because, you know, that would be like us eating sand and letting that get in our intestines and everything. You can, you know, rip your intestines. But anyway, if you're a goldfish lover out there, I would highly recommend don't use sand. Use a gravel big enough so the goldfish can spit out. I noticed that with the Belazinite, that when they would take the substrate and put it in their mouth, they'd blow out some, and a lot of it will come out of their gills. You know, which goldfish, you don't see anything come out of their gills. They just spit it out. Well, they had a lot coming out of their gills. So that was the difference between the two fish. So it's something to think about if you use sand. But anyhow, so I redid the tank. I'm going to go, I got lots of videos and stuff for you, explain to you what I did, how I did it. And that was a question I asked about, hey, why did it clear up so fast? And that's in this video. So stay tuned for the answer that everybody gave me of what they thought, not only what they thought, but what they experienced with the same thing. That's all coming up next. Okay, so let's get into this video. This is what the tank looks like right now today. And it's crystal clear. I saved as many of the plants as I could. they should take. But this is what it looks like. The question I asked basically is, why did the tank clear up so quickly? And I had a lot of people tell me about their experiences, what they thought. And I want to thank all those who did make a comment, because it helps with this video. I do want to, I'll quote you some of the people of what they said in case you don't really read any other people's comments. But one individual said, there are several advantages to using a plenum / UGF, but one of the biggest, in my opinion, is the sheer size of filtration medium you are using. 3 or 4 inches of depth times the square footage of your tank is just a huge amount of mechanical and eventually biological filtration. I would need to run several canisters or hang on the back filters to get anywhere near the amount of contact media. Had nearly the same results with my 40-gallon, my 75-gallon, and my 10-gallon, clearing up within hours rather than days or weeks. Also puts, as a side note benefit, using a plenum or undergravel filter and clay substrate is a huge boost to the plant growth, as it pulls nutrients down to their roots, enjoying my live plants almost as much as the fish these days. That's kind of unusual. Some people, the live plants don't do as good as the fish, but that's good to hear. Let's see, another person made a comment. That's the work of the UG filter / plenum system. It works the same for me, using this system since 1968 when I started with fish keeping. Well, I guess you can't complain. They've been using it since 1968. This is the results. But what really happens is a little bit of science behind it. And everybody, basically I thought, oh, the question's going to trick people. Ha ha, I'm going to get people. But basically, everybody knew what the answer was. But how it basically works is, you got to think of your tank as a bunch of positive ions, and your tank water that you're looking at is positively charged. Now you got to think about the plenum that you just made with the kitty litter or your C-chem or fluoride, whatever you're using, okay? That is going to become negatively charged. And then you have the very bottom of the aquarium, or the plenum, which is positive and negatively charged ions. And because kitty litter and your substrate is negatively charged, it attracts the ions, correct? Well, those fine, minute dust particles, they're negatively charged. And now you have the positively charged water and the negatively charged particulate matter that make it look cloudy, right? And what it's doing in a way is fluxing, what they call fluxing, where the positive and negative charges collect together, and they're being collect together and go into the plenum. Basically, is what happens. If you want the more scientific explanation of exactly what's happening, because if you think about it, a plenum with the substrate I'm using is not a fine filter at all. It's, I don't know how many microns it is. It would be, 200 micron or something. That's not very fine to collect that smoky look that's in your aquarium. However, if you have ions that attract each other, and then it gets attracted into the substrate, and the substrate holds it there, right? So every time that water is moving through that substrate, it is collecting that particulate matter that is only a matter of microns large, and holding it because it has now attracted the negative and positive ion, and now that's being tracked at that positive ion into your substrate. Pretty simple, but it constantly works that way. It does. Every time I've done one, even I think if you remember, I did an old video when I set up this tank over 2 years ago and explained how cloudy it was because of the sand, and I said it cleared up within an hour or two. It didn't take long for it to clear up. The whole tank was all cloudy, but it cleared up very quickly. Same thing happened there. That the reason it cleared up, understanding that how a plenum works is that it is negatively charged. The very bottom of the plenum is positive and negatively charged ions, and the water column itself is basically positively charged ions. Basically, there are negatively charged ions, but basically the majority is positively charged, and that helps to clean up the aquarium. So basically everybody got that right. I was thinking they wouldn't, but the tank now, even though it's being run, I'm still feeding the fish 4 times a day. I did add Fritzine 7, and that was the nitrifying bacteria in a bottle because I wanted to get that to establish in the plenum as fast as possible. And as you're probably looking at this saying, well, ooh, your bubbler's moving pretty fast. Yes, it's moving as fast as I can have it go with air to move fluid through the plenum so the bacteria can start developing. Then I can adjust it at a later date. But for right now, I just have it like that at that speed. Now, I know you're probably thinking, wow, that looks like you're pumping out a lot of water. But believe it or not, they can only pump out so much water. That's only pumping up maybe about 20 gallons of water an hour. It's not as much as you think, okay? Because a uplift tube can only pump out about 50 gallons of water if it's 1 inch in diameter. The one I'm using is a 1/2 inch diameter. But that's about max as you're going to get with an airlift tube with an undergravel filter. And that would explain why they would add so many uplift tubes to an undergravel filter. Let's say a 55-gallon tank would have 2 filter plates and 4 uplift tubes, because if each uplift tube could pump no more than about 50 gallons per hour, at least you got each section pumping 100 gallons an hour if you're using air. And this is all before they made start using mechanical to aid in undergravel filters to actually pump more water through the filter. That's where all the mistakes start getting in. Plus the fact the mistakes start getting in even when they started making new filters that had 2 uplift tubes that were 1 inch and they could pump each one 50 gallons an hour. You're pumping water just way too fast through the undergravel filter back in those days. Because they had it right when they first came out with undergravel filters, only put a 1 inch tube in, because the most you're going to pump out of that is maybe 20 or 25 gallons an hour. That is max you're going to pump out of something like that. And that's if you got it cranked up all the way. Most people did not in those days. They would turn them down and have them go slower. But for now, if you look back there on the right hand side, it's really pumping out quite a lot. I will turn that down. But for right now, I want to make sure I got fluids moving through there. And that is the reason. Everybody got it right. I thought, well, I guess most of the people, it's because they're using plenums and they same thing happened to them. And that's good to hear. Look, if more people are like that and people are saying, hey, I used the same thing. I did the same thing you did. My tank cleared up. I used the same substrate as you did. My tank cleared up. I used Safe-T Sorb. Yeah, the tank turned a little cloudy because I couldn't get 100% clean. But within an hour or two, boom, it was clear as gin. You know what I mean? They all went through the same experience. To really clean out that small particulate matter, you would almost have to use a rare earth filter, you know, that could filter out everything down to 1 micron. and nobody uses rare earth filters anymore. You know, they're kind of passe, I guess you could call them. Nobody wants to deal with them anymore. And Vortex, I think Vortex was the maker of a real good one back in the day, and no, you can't even find them. Sometimes you can find them, you know, in the flea market or something, but otherwise, yeah, they stopped making them. Just people didn't go with them. But this is what it looks like now. It's running quite good. I have no problems. I'm feeding them 4 times a day. The fish have not went into any shock, and I will get more into it. I want to thank everybody for answering the question. I will get more into this setup, so you can set it up. I will tell you something. If you plan on changing your tank over, or you're going to buy a new tank, find out what the size of the tank is, even if they have run to the store with a tape measure, and make your plenum about 1 inch per side smaller. You can always take the back of the plenum and put it at the back of the tank where you're not going to see it. So that means, you know, if you had a 36-inch tank, you would make the plenum so it's 34 inches. And if you had 18 inches from front to back, you would make the plenum so it's only 17 inches. If you don't, because if the plenum sits on the back of the aquarium and you can't get gravel there, no one's going to see it. So you'll have 1 inch all the way around where you can put some gravel, you know, or a 1/2 inch all the way around, so you can put your substrate. I'm not going to say gravel, I'll just say substrate, where you can put your substrate, whatever you're going to use, and cosmetically make it look nice. I have it like this. It will change over time once algae starts growing and everything else, but this is what it looks like. So you can see where the plenum is. You can see the black, right? Then you can see where I have at least, that's three bags of kitty litter, maybe a little more, but 3 bags, good 3 bags of the kitty litter at 20 pounds, because a lot of it, you know, washes away when I cleaned it. And that made about, I'm going to say 1.5 inches of substrate height at least. And then I topped it off, of course, with the Chem product. And this particular fluoride here, it looks more of a terracotta. It's not the one I had a long time ago. That maybe was a different manufacturer, because this looks more terracotta, where it's not as red as the red stuff. But I did not add iron, and I'll tell you why I didn't add iron, because this is full of iron. The product is, so I don't need to put flourish iron into it or anything, because it is full of iron, and that iron will stay in there for quite some time to feed your plants and everything else with that iron. I just noticed that as it ages, I'm going to say this is what I noticed using those products that have, you know, magnesium, manganese, iron stuff. They seem to be good for a little while, and then they don't seem to be working as well. So you'll have to start adding more iron to the aquarium, because it seems like it can't leach out the iron like it did when it was brand new or when you first set up your aquarium. But anyhow, I want to thank everybody. There's more coming up. I'm going to have more videos. One thing I did not do, and I'll let you know, when I did the plenum, I did not put anything underneath it. So I did not use that Eheim substrate additive. I did not use it. I'll get into a video on that, but I really kind of felt that there was no need myself. So until next time, this is Dr. Novak. Happy fish keeping, and don't forget to subscribe.